Welcome to Smash to Compare. Remember when Snake was added to Brawl and that was like the craziest thing ever? Well, Smash 4 broke us even harder with the inclusion of Cloud. I mean, think about it. Who could have ever predicted that Cloud Strife, as in the Cloud from Square Enix, the company who some would call a competitor of Nintendo, be in a Smash Bros game? He's a character that has the quick speed of a Chocobro, and range even longer than that of Sephiroth's hair. His intro has him fall from the sky as he catches his Buster Sword. His walk and duck don't really have any history, though his dash is the same dash he has in Final Fantasy VII. It's similar to the levitating dash that Mewtwo has. His double jump comes from Dissidia Final Fantasy, a game where Final Fantasy characters duke it out. His regular ground combo is a side kick, followed by a roundhouse kick and finishes with a slash from the Buster Sword. The move has good speed, and it feels similar to Ike's ground combo due to the good range of the first two attacks. Not that the Buster Sword slash has low range, I mean, how can you not have long range with a sword of that size? Though it is a bit less than the first two hits. Cloud also moves forward with each hit, increasing the range. It does around 2.5% for the first hit, 2% for the next, and 4% for the last. These moves might come from another fighting game Cloud was in, God Bless the Ring. His F-tilt is a slash forward. It has a fast startup, though it has a tiny bit of ending lag. It's Cloud's best tilt for KOing as it can kill middleweights at 130%. It does 11%. It resembles his regular attacking animation from Final Fantasy VII. Cloud's U-tilt is a swipe over his head. It hits on both sides and has a good sized hitbox. However, it lags in damage. This means that the move is good for combo starting since it can lead into itself and Cloud's aerials. It does 8%. His D-tilt is a slide that sends him a good length, very similar to that of Mega Man's D-tilt. It's a fast move that does more damage if it hits someone after the first few frames. Since Cloud clings to the ground, he can dodge some projectiles using this move. It knocks opponents upwards, making it good for following into aerials. It does 6% for an early and 7% for a late. It comes from a sliding attack Cloud has in God Bless the Ring. For his dash attack, Cloud will start to slide only to have a sudden stop as he sticks the sharp side of the Buster Sword out. It has a long-lasting hitbox, though it's recommended to try to attack with this move when it first comes out, so it does more damage. The move has decent knockback and it does 11% for a clean, but 8% for a late. His F smash is 3 swipes with the Buster Sword in front of him. The last hit not only has more range, but it's the hit that has the most knockback. And knockback it does, as this is Cloud's strongest move besides his limit break specials, being able to kill slightly below 100%. The first hit does 3%. The second hit does 2%. If the blade hits the opponent, and 3% if the hilt hits the opponent. The final hit does 12%. Cloud will swing the Buster Sword in an upward arc for his U-smash. It's good for protection from up above due to its fast startup and good range. You can even coin an additional bit of damage after the move while Cloud is holding the sword above his head. It does 13% for a clean when sweet spotted and 12% for a clean when sour spotted. And if it's late, it does 8%. His D-smash will make Cloud stick the hilt of the Buster Sword out and then stab behind him with the blade. It is his fastest smash attack, and players can take advantage of the semi-spike properties of the second hit when Cloud is facing away from the edge. The first hit does 4% and the second does 12%. Similar to Ike, Cloud will swing his sword in a full circle around him for his nair. It has nice range, speed, and is a good approach option. It can auto-cancel from a short hop, so it's hard to punish, but it isn't the best move to use on grounded opponents, as it will often miss them. It does 8%. Cloud once again takes a page from the Book of Ike as he will swing his sword in front of him for his fair. This move is powerful, but Cloud pauses before performing it, making it have quite a bit of startup lag. If sweet spotted, it becomes a very strong meteor smash. When the blade is stopped, weak knockback is dealt, so the move is effective on dodge rollers. Though it has good range, it can also be auto-cancelled for a short hop. It is a good move to be used offstage and does 14% for a clean sweet spot, 13% for a clean sour spot, and 11% for a late. This move may be a reference to the Bravier limit break from Final Fantasy VII. Cloud's Bear is a pretty good move. Cloud will take the Buster Sword and swing it behind him. The knockback and range is nice, along with a decent 13%. And due to its fast startup, it's reliable for edgeguarding. Though it does have some ending lag, its landing lag is low, making up for it. This looks to be a potential reference to Aerial Fang from Dissidia Final Fantasy. In Cloud's U-R, he will thrust his Buster Sword in the air, parallel to the ground, making it look like Ike's U-tilt. It has good horizontal range and is good for juggling opponents. Its ability to easily link into other attacks makes it a good attack for combos. This move does less damage after the first few frames. At first it does 12%, then it will decrease to 8.5%. His dare is him pointing his sword down in a somewhat similar fashion to Link's dare. Hitting opponents with the tip of the sword during the first few frames will meteor smash them. Since the hitbox stays out for a while, it's not only a good move for juggling opponents, but it's also good for an out of shield move. It does 13 to 15% for a clean and 8% for a late. His dare could be from the finishing blow of the Clim Hazard move from Dissidia Final Fantasy. Disappointedly, his grab has very short range, as he'll try to capture opponents with his left hand. His pummel is a knee thrust that is slow, but does have decent damage output of 3%. His forward throw is a simple dropkick that does 4% for the first hit and 3% for the second. The animation may resemble the somersault limit break used by Tifa in Final Fantasy VII. His backward throw is also a kick that knocks opponents off him. The first and the second hit both do 3%. Cloud's up throw is a butterfly kick that resembles other attacks like Captain Falcon's U-Smash or Sonic's U-Tilt. It's his second strongest throw, though it doesn't really KO at reasonable percentages. The move looks like the water kick limit break, which was used by Tifa in Final Fantasy VII. It does 2% for the first hit, 2.5% for the second, and 4% for the third. His D throw has Cloud slamming opponents on the ground with his hand. It does 7% and is Cloud's primary combo throw since it can lead into his forward tilt or as special until medium percentages. However, at higher damages, it is his strongest throw. Now for his neutral special, Blade Beam. Cloud will launch a green beam from his sword. He swipes his sword to fire the projectile, but the sword itself does no damage nor knockback. The beam when used on the ground will do 8% if it hits up close, though if the beam hits after it's traveled a bit, then its damage will instead be 6%. In the air, Cloud's beam will be weakened by 2%. Its damage will be 6% if it hits early and 8% if it hits late, and the range will be a bit shorter. On the ground, the move travels about 3/5 of Final Destination, while it only travels half the length of Final Destination in the air. He will also stall in the air when using the move. This attack may reference the Blade Beam limit break from Final Fantasy VII. This move is practically the same between the two games, but in Final Fantasy VII, a downward slash summons the beam, while in Smash Bros. It's an upward slash. His side special is called Cross Clash and does a series of 5 hits. Each hit leaves behind a golden trail. The first hit does 4% and is the only one Cloud can do unless it hits an opponent. The second hit does 3%. The third time you press the button, Cloud will swipe his sword a total of 3 times doing 3%, so 3% and then 6% for a total of 19%. It's now revealed that Cloud was spelling out the Japanese kanji for Kyo, which roughly translate to misfortune. The move does nice damage, and the knockback is pretty good, though you better be prepared to be hit as well as use this move on a shielded opponent. This move probably comes from Cross Slash from Final Fantasy, where it's pretty much performed the same way as it does in Smash. Now the kanji for this move faces the same way, no matter which way Cloud is facing while using the move. As in, it keeps the same orientation and is never flipped. This means it's the only move to have different hitboxes depending on which direction the character in question is facing. Cloud's up special is Clim Hazard. In this move, Cloud will do a jumping sword slash which leaves a red trail. It does 4% and has a height of about the topmost platform on Battlefield. Opponents can also be caught in the slash at the beginning of the move for 3%. Cloud will only really be able to grab the ledge during the beginning of the move, or at the peak of the jump. Now this move in appearance kind of looks like Dolphin Slash, Marth's U special. He will go straight down for 3.5 to 4.5% damage. The move is most of the time a meteor smash, though it can launch opponents diagonally. However, he can only grab the edge when going downwards, if he's already fallen a bit. This can make the move dangerous for off-stage use, and due to its low height, it isn't really a reliable recovery move. It might come from the Clim Hazard limit break from Final Fantasy VII, which was also a jumping sword attack. The falling slash kind of resembles his Bravier limit break, also from Final Fantasy VII. One thing about Cloud is that he has a limit gauge. When the limit gauge is filled up, he's able to use a limit break version of special moves, which are stronger and better versions of said attacks. Whenever Cloud does damage or receives damage, his gauge will fill up. Using only these methods, Cloud needs to deal 250% to opponents or take 100% himself to fill up the gauge. However, if Cloud uses his D special, then one can see the limit gauge from Final Fantasy VII appear. Not only is this the only way to see the gauge's progress, but using the down special will make the gauge fill up manually. If the move is used for about 7 seconds total, then the gauge will be filled. If it is filled up through the down special, then the limit gauge full sound from Final Fantasy VII will play and Cloud will say, Limits are meant to be broken in Japanese. When the gauge is finally filled up, one way or another, Cloud will go into a limit break status as a blue flame aura surrounds him. This blue aura was present in his battle against Sephiroth in the Advent Children movie. Besides giving him special moves, Cloud is also faster and is less affected by gravity in his limit break state. In Final Fantasy VII, there is somewhat of a limit gauge that is filled up by taking damage from enemies. After being filled up, Cloud, or whoever's gauge got filled up, could use the limit break moves. Speaking of, the limit break version of Blade Beam changes the attack color from green to blue, and makes the beam a more powerful multi-hitting attack that does 19% in total. In the air, it does a lot more damage, doing around 10 to 15% instead of the measly 2% that the regular Blade Beam has. It also makes Cloud not stall in the air. In fact, if Cloud launches the beam in the air but lands on the ground before the beam hits an opponent, then that beam used in the air will have as much power as the grounded version. As for the limit break version of Cross Slash, when the button is pressed, Cloud will perform all 5 strikes in quick succession, even if there's no one right in front of him. Since you only need to perform the move with 1 button action instead of 3, it's a lot quicker. This does more combined damage, doing 26%, and the knockback is greater. As a visual effect, there's a blue trim around the symbol. The limit break version of Clim Hazard does almost twice the combined damage as the normal move, doing 6% for the first slash and 7% for the rising part of the move. The combined damage totals out to 13% instead of the 7% that the normal version has. The move also has more knockback. And remember when we said how unreliable Clim Hazard was due to its low height? Well, the limit break version makes Cloud's name quite literal, as he'll go soaring up past the heads of his opponents, or soaring up to the edge, because the move is great as a recovery move too. Though unfortunately, you'll probably be wasting your limit break on getting back to the edge instead of actually attacking because of this. Luckily, you will have more cover than the normal move, since the limit break version will grab edges while moving up, as opposed to having to wait till the move ended. Just make sure you don't smack your head on the underside of the stage while attempting this. Now what happens if Cloud uses the limit break version of his down special? I mean, he can't just increase his limit gauge bar with more intensity. Well, Cloud will instead use a completely new move, Finishing Touch. He'll spawn a huge whirlwind that does, get ready for this, 1% of damage. That's right, the tiniest amount possible, the minimum wage of damage. However, the name tells you an important part of the move. While Finishing Touch isn't a one-hit KO, it is insanely strong with its knockback, killing really early. However, the move can be countered and/or shielded, lowering its effectiveness a bit. The move can also be used in mid-air to aid recovery since it makes Cloud hover for a bit. Finishing Touch is a limit break in Final Fantasy VII that would instantly kill weaker enemies, but would heavily damage the stronger ones. Interestingly to note, fast followers seem to survive the move more, even if they're not particularly heavy. Imagine this scene, you're playing Final Fantasy VII and you're Cloud facing off against Sephiroth. You deal the final blow by using the very last limit break, Omni Slash. This is Cloud's final limit break, doing massive amounts of damage if he learns it. Even if he doesn't learn it, it will always be the final move he uses against Sephiroth. In both Smash 4 and Final Fantasy, a text box saying the name of the move is shown. In Smash 4, Cloud will move straight forward and attack the first opponent he comes across, similar to Marth and Lucina's Final Smash. And like their Final Smash, he will most likely self-destruct if he misses while using the move in mid-air. Then Cloud will use the move like the original game as he repeatedly slashes the opponent. He'll then unleash the final blow for a total of 50%. The final smash is very similar to Ike's, both involving multiple slashes followed by a final swing. They also both have camera angles focusing around the move, though for some reason, the camera angles aren't used on 2D stages such as Flat Zone X or Mario Maker. Cloud's up taunt is him twirling a sword behind his back. This is similar to the one from his victory animation from Final Fantasy VII. His side taunt is him placing his sword on his back and putting his hands together, similarly to the spellcasting animation from Final Fantasy VII. His down taunt will make him stand his sword on its tip as he poses and laughs scoffingly. His first idle pose is him touching the blade of his sword in a similar manner to Ike or Roy's idle pose. His second idle pose is him just holding his sword in front of himself. His victory theme is a remix of the Final Fantasy VII victory theme, which in some weird remixception type thing, the original victory theme itself is a remix of the Final Fantasy victory theme. So we have a remix of a remix. Though the victory theme is the only one in Smash Bros, that continues and replaces the results music. His first victory pose has him twirling the Buster Sword as he places it on his back and looks away, all while saying, "No hard feelings," in Japanese. The pose itself might be from Dissidia Final Fantasy. The second victory pose is basically the same as the first one, though at a different angle. Cloud will say, "Better luck next time," in Japanese.
The third and final victory pose is him quickly slashing the Buster Sword twice, while then getting into a stance that looks like his second idle animation.
For some extra history, Cloud's defense stance in Dissidia Final Fantasy is very much like his shield stance in Smash Bros. His dizzy animation looks somewhat like the animation he had in Final Fantasy VII when he was having a flashback. Make sure to follow Smash Compare on Twitter. We post daily Smash facts, polls, giveaways, and updates on the show. Feel free to leave a like if you want, and leave a comment telling us what you thought of today's episode. Hop on the bandwagon and follow my Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and Tumblr. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.